You must not watch this.
Oh? I'm
warning you. You can never unsee it.
Oh god. This is kind of meta.
All hail Morpheus, eh? Deep Ando.
Morpheus?
Everything you're about to see is from their individual viewpoints or taken from
Ah.
the station itself. The only footage available.
Interesting.
If you're going to watch, then pay close attention. Your lives may depend on it.
Okay, let's do it then. Of course, the grunts up front. Ooh, nice.
There was no crew. No crew left.
Ah,
I typesetting. 40 filament, 3-day week.
doctor. Go on then, tell us.
Engineering stress assessors.
Yes. Yes, we are.
Looking right at me.
24 hours ago, this station fell silent. No comm signal, nothing. Dead. We've come to find out why.
Theories?
Tried and tested approach.
After the great catastrophe, there was a tectonic realignment. India and Japan, they are sort of merged.
Ugh,
We still don't know where the rest of the crew are, though.
that explains the writing.
Chopra, not worry. 474 protect, Chopra. Chopra, pretty.
Oh, for God's sake. She's a grunt, Clara. They're bred in hatcheries. Cloned muscles, low intelligence, brute force.
So,
Instant army.
That's disgusting.
yeah, I was gonna say, it's not really an android then. His scene almost feels like a scene out of a game. Oh, interesting. But the sand's on the inside now, though. Careful.
What are these?
Morpheus?
Morpheus. Named after the god of dreams. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Not
Oh.
just this.
Oh.
So, what are they then? Sleep pods?
Oh.
Clara!
Oh. This is crazy because she ends up being in a show called
It's just Morpheus.
Sandman.
Did I sleep?
Yeah, you did.
Why did it just grab at me?
Semi-sentient.
Oh.
Thinks it knows what's good for you. You obviously need
There's
to
still
talk to
there's
it.
someone in there, right? In the last one, then it's gonna be that man, right?
I'm Clara. This is the doctor.
Ooh, it's building and it's building and building some more. Yeah, it's him.
Of course we can take stimulants to make that deadline, to keep us propped up through that important meeting. But always, always, sleep claims us in the end.
Ah,
Until now.
huh?
Deprivation pods.
The Morpheus machine concentrates the whole nocturnal experience into one 5-minute burst.
Oof.
Now you can go a whole month without sleep.
A month?
All the
Oh my
chemical benefits
God!
of
Imagine,
this, freeing
imagine.
up the nights to continue working, 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 to get the edge on your competitor.
There you go. It's made for
To turn that extra profit.
that type of reason,
That's
though.
insane.
Sleep is vital. Sleep is wonderful. Even I sleep.
When?
Well, when you're not looking.
Looks at us.
Morpheus is mine.
So how does it work?
The pod sends out.
Hold
a
on,
coded
who's he looking at right
electric
now?
Signal that acts on certain parts of the brain, changes the fundamental chemistry. We spend a third of our lives asleep, and time is money.
He's right.
Time
man.
is precious.
It's amazing.
Sleep. You've conquered nature.
Thank you.
Wasn't a
You've also
compliment.
created an abomination.
Sleep dust.
Sleep dust.
Ah.
Well, do I look like I'm kidding? Lying there in those pods, people are a ready-made food source.
Where are they then? Where's the crew?
All over.
Digested.
Oh. Yeah. There's that little the specs.
How come you're the only one left?
Because I hid. I hid in the only place I thought those monsters wouldn't find me. Look, we've got to get out of here.
The monster you created. Oh, look at that. That looks good. Ugh.
No, I can't leave them.
Kitchen. Freezer.
Nagata, you okay? No, I'm not. What about the others?
I don't know.
But they don't have any helmets or anything. How can it be from their perspective?
They're under my command.
Are you, Clara, to die, to die? Glamps have murdered sleep. Therefore, Godor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more. Every night, we dive deep into that inky pool into the arms of Morpheus. Every morning we wake up and wipe the sleep from our eyes. And that keeps us safe.
I'm a little bit confused about how I'm able to see it from Clara's perspective. Because he specified earlier, right? That this is all footage.
What are you doing?
I've hacked into your helmet cams,
What?
reviewing the footage. There's something not right here.
We don't have helmet cams.
Why did it kill Rasmussen like that?
That's what they do, isn't it? Kill people?
Sandman?
Yeah, it's a good name. Fits like the song.
No. No. You don't get to name things. I'm the doctor. I do the naming.
Right, sorry.
He liked it. He's like, I wanted to say it.
Okay, well, what would you prefer then? The Dustmen?
Sandman.
Yeah.
What did you just say?
When?
1.83 minutes ago.
Helmet
I
cams.
said we don't have helmet cams.
Yeah. Let's see how they react to the temperature.
474 cam.
What? The doctor worked it out. The creatures
They can't see.
can't see.
It's definitely like a game. That might be the inspiration for this. At least one of them.
What happened? 474 help.
No.
What?
474.
474 die soon. No, don't say that. You got us through. Jump will be safe.
Chopper up pretty. Oh. It's kind of reminiscent of games like The Last of Us, Dead Space.
There are no cameras here. No CCTV. No helmet cams. So how and why does this footage even exist?
I mean, no, there's some cameras on the
Dust
walls.
has been watching us. Little organic speck.
Ah,
Just a tiny spy.
that explains it.
And then there's this. That's you, Clara. That's you
Yeah.
looking at me.
How though?
Me?
You went into the pod.
The grav shields didn't fail. They were deliberately powered down.
By-
the Sandman.
Well, that's not their style, is it?
It's by that guy.
Your alibi? There would inevitably be questions when you got to Triton. So you needed to get your story straight.
They're the future. A new life form. Better life form.
Is that right?
It's very clear to me now. They made me understand. But they're like children. Babies. So new.
Yeah, new life forms, right? So.
Evolving. Hungry. Always so hungry.
Yes.
What's in there?
I like the score.
Dust.
Morpheus' first client. Patient zero. The ultimate wide awake. You can't stop them. None of us can.
Careful. Don't get trapped in here.
Bet on that, pet.
Kind of like the spice from Dune, right? It's in the atmosphere.
Shut off the engine, shut the ship down!
Can't do that, I'm afraid, Doctor. Can't fight the inevitable. Humanity's day is done.
Yeah, well, humanity might have something to say about that, Pet. Is that your answer for everything?
A man who hasn't slept for 5 years.
Well, you heard what he said. That's the first Morpheus patient.
But the dust consumes the host.
And then they make Sandmen. They conglomerate.
I've never been so pleased to see.
Oh boy. It feels like I've seen this area before. Or they might have filmed in it on the soundstage before. Or on this set.
Doesn't make sense! None of this makes any sense!
I'll be honest, I am a little bit confused as well about some of the plot.
An electronic signal that affects the sleep centers of the brain, changes them. An electronic signal that's contained in this recording. There it is.
Ah.
Tickles, doesn't it?
I've been seeing it throughout.
Only us. Only us. You will show this film to your family, won't you? And then we can all be together.
Forever.
Dust.
Ah. How bizarre. Okay, so episode 9, Sleep No More. Or To Die to Sleep No More, right? Bit of a Hamlet reference there. And also Macbeth, right? A bit later in the episode. I've got to say, I actually liked the episode intro, right? Instead of the traditional Doctor Who intro, it just kind of bakes it into the episode itself. Yeah. I mean, it's a unique episode. It feels almost kind of like a free hit, right? That it's so detached from. I don't know. It just feels really quite detached from the main storyline of this series, right? Everything else did kind of feel like, okay, even if it can be a standalone, it's still kind of connected. But this, especially by the end of the episode, it just truly felt like almost that it. I don't know. You'll have to let me know. It almost kind of felt like it wasn't even canon. I mean, it is, I suppose, but that's just how I felt. Right? That it's just like a one shot. And of course, it's Doctor Who's take on found footage. And sure, a lot of times that can be a bit gimmicky because it's been done to the moon and back at this point. And even around the point this episode might have aired, right? It's been done. And I'm guessing that's one of the reasons Doctor Who wanted to take a shot at it as well, right? Their take on the found footage. I mean, it's certainly reminiscent of a lot of episodes that I've enjoyed in the past. It has a lot of elements from those types of episodes present in this one as well. So, before I go any further, I'll say this. Maybe it's not a knockout episode as a whole, but there's a lot of interesting ideas. Even if a half dozen of them interesting ideas might seem a little bit undercooked, underbaked, they are interesting nonetheless, the ideas that they do bring up in this, right? The world building is, it's interesting. I think it's intriguing even. A corporatist future run by this new Japan and India fusion that kind of happened. They both kind of jumbled into one, right? As the Doctor explained. In first person, I've got to say, the found footage element of it really gave us this unique perspective, didn't it? Right? Come on. How cool is it to have Capaldi stare right down the barrel of the lens and look at us directly? I thought it was really quite cool, right? To have Capaldi deliver a lot of his lines of dialogue in that manner, looking right at the screen, right at the camera, at the lens specifically. And then, of course, there's the Morpheus machine itself, right? It concentrates the whole nocturnal experience into 5 minutes, into 5-minute bursts, apparently. Now, of course, at first, that sounds kind of enticing, doesn't it? I mean, listen, I should maybe only speak for myself, but it really sounded quite incredible to me, right? And I say that because, honestly, I've dreamt of this type of thing for a long, long time. I've always thought of, I don't know, man. Yeah, listen, I might sound a little bit crazy admitting to this or, that I think about this a lot, but yeah, maybe for a strange reason, it resonated. And I was kind of drawn into this concept because, I've always felt that there's just so much to do, man. So much to do, but there's just not enough time in a single day. There just isn't, right? And, I look at all these things that I want to do, that I need to do, that I feel that I really have to do. And then I just kind of calculate, I kind of just do the mental gymnastics, and sometimes it just hits you, and you think, actually, I might not be able to do everything that I want to do in one lifetime, right? And that's the reality of it. And listen, at this point, I've lost count of how many times I've been in a situation, or I've just been in a moment, just thinking to myself, God, if only there was more time. If only I could tap into that time I spent sleeping, right? And have no consequences, of course, right? That's the tricky bit. I mean, I think the thought of it is really quite incredible, right? The possibility of that, right? It's quite a I don't know. It's quite a. I mean, I thought it's a really intriguing fantasy concept. But in this case, in this specific situation, in the world of this story, it's actually made to gain an advantage over your competition, right? Right? It's created for efficiency and expediency. Ultimately, it's there to exploit, right? It's there to kind of get as much out of the workforce as possible. In the case of this story, at least. Now, before I go any further, let me kind of take a crack at the plot of it, right? Or the major revelation. Okay, so let me give it a shot. Here's my understanding of it. It's entirely possible that I might be mixing things up a bit, because I'll admit it's not the. I don't know. Like I said during the episode, just as the Doctor himself also said, none of this makes any sense as he exits and, essentially takes an L, a rare L. He just, he left. He gets out of there, takes Clara, and the other soldier, the commander, I believe, and they get out of there. He's out of there, right? And he leaves just not knowing anything, essentially, right? Just really, really confused about it all. And I think it's also kind of mimicking how us, the audience, might be feeling at that moment. I was certainly a little bit confused about the plot as well. So everything in this story is a setup, right? As stated by the man himself, who just kind of falls apart at the end. And I don't know, it's just a really jarring and bizarre ending. I think that was actually quite effective, right? It has this haunting feel to it, doesn't it? But yeah, it's all a setup to create an interesting story, right? To make a gripping story at that. And, it's filmed by this sentient dust from all different angles. And, at one part of the episode, yeah, it became really clear to me, okay, something's kind of off here. I'm seeing perspectives here. But then, it becomes clear that, okay, they don't have any helmet cams. And I just kind of assumed that those helmets have cams on them. Turns out that's not the case either, right? So then you're getting perspectives from Clara, or you're seeing things from her perspective. And then it becomes clear, okay, something's off here. And then, of course, the Doctor puts it together as well. But yeah, it's filmed by the sentient dust and subsequently broadcast to a large audience, right? Or it's meant to be broadcast to a large audience. As a Doctor Who episode. So yeah, it's really quite a meta episode. It begins on quite a meta note, right? Giving us a warning. It's really quite similar to Blink. Maybe I shouldn't say it's quite similar. It has some elements that are present in Blink. But yeah, going back to the episodes that it kind of reminded me of, episodes like 42, The Impossible Planet, The Satan Pit, right? The Rebel Flesh, much more recently. The Waters of Mars, right? A secluded base and a crew, and the Doctor and his companion, right? Oh, also The Last Christmas. Yeah, a similar tone, right? Similar setup. But I must admit, the guest cast here in this episode is perhaps the weakest I've experienced in a long time in a Doctor Who episode. If I'm being completely honest. Chopra, yeah, I'd say he's maybe one of the standouts, right? Given his disposition, given his stance on Morpheus, given his stance on the grunts and their existence altogether. Of course, Clara shares that sentiment. And, I've got to say the grunt is also quite a sympathetic character. There's a really lovely moment as it essentially gives up its life to save Chopra, right? And then there's that moment, Chopra safe, or Chopra go, Chopra pretty, and it touches Chopra's face again. I thought this time it's a really sweet moment. Even earlier, you feel empathy. I did, at least, for the grunt. But yeah, I'd say that in this case, almost all of their actions are kind of driven by the needs of the plot, rather than any form of character development. And I'm speaking of the guest cast. But yeah, going back to the setup of the episode, within those recordings, there's these short blips, right? These electronic signals. It's almost as if it's this exposure to subliminal messaging, right? And listen, the thing is, I noticed it throughout the episode, but I thought it's just their choice of transition, that they're using it as just like a transition for some of these scenes. I mean, it's kind of hard to miss, right? I mean, it's right in your face. It's right there, but I just kind of assumed it's meant to be a transition, or maybe, it's meant to be static from these recordings, because it is, again, using the found footage element. But yeah, ultimately the key was to get as many people to watch, right? To entice them, as long as necessary for all of their sleep dust to be converted, I believe. So yeah, I think I have a decent understanding of it, because he kind of explains it by the end of it, doesn't he? Essentially, it's just this really meta episode. And then, of course, you've got the creatures themselves. Interesting creature design and build up. They are essentially eye gunk, right? But yeah, I suppose they are the literal manifestation of the human drive to push ourselves past our limits. I mean, without considering the consequences. And yeah, I'd say the creatures themselves are sinister at times, for sure, right? Because of some of the photography, some of the, darkly lit scenes, the corridors. And, at one moment, the fire that's kind of sweeping through that one corridor as, again, the grunt 474, I believe, is about to die. They looked really quite menacing, really reminiscent of the creatures from The Last of Us, the clickers, right? And then at other times they looked really quite goofy, especially up close. And of course, there's that idea of the unreliable narrator in this one, though, ultimately it's more so a case of him just completely lying altogether, right? And that's a big revelation by the end of it. And I feel that I really could have used subtitles for this one. And I know that might sound surprising to say, because I know you might be thinking, then how come you didn't just turn them on? See, the thing is, I have all the Blu-ray sets. I'm big on physical media. I really am, right? Especially for stuff I really like. See, but the issue is the frame rates, right? This is a North American release. The one I have, of course, is North American release, right? So the frame rate is the 24 FPS, or to be even more precise, 23.98, right? That's the standard frame rate in North America, at least, because the standard in UK, or in the UK, or at least England, is 25 FPS, right? And I've noticed that a lot of my subscribers that do check out Doctor Who are from England. I've seen the analytics, and even on Patreon, it's been clear that the majority of you guys are from England, right? So I had to cater to that audience, to my audience specifically. So I don't use my Blu-ray sets. I use them to rewatch off screen later, if I want to go back to an episode and for the extras and stuff. So essentially I do acquire the 25 FPS English versions of them, of those episodes. And unfortunately, many of them don't have subtitles. So I don't even have the option to turn them on. Right. And, in those cases, sometimes I do wish that I could pop in my Blu-ray set, because, you could just immediately turn on the subtitles. But here it was a bit of an issue. I feel like I did miss a bit of dialogue. I don't know. It was kind of muddled up. And maybe I just wasn't able to understand Capaldi's accent a few times, I think. I don't know. And it wasn't just Capaldi, just some of the dialogue. It was getting muddled up. Looking back at it, I probably should have just bought the Blu-ray sets from England, or the English versions of them, right? It's no issue to actually get them to play, even though it's different time codes, or not time codes, not time zones. The number, right? It's specific to certain areas. There's one specific to North America, one specific to Europe. Yeah, in hindsight, it probably would have been a better idea to just get the sets from England or Amazon UK. I've got a bunch of friends in UK that easily could have just bought those for me and sent them over, right? So yeah, maybe I'll do that for the last set in the Capaldi era, Series 10. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. Ultimately, perhaps an interesting approach, right? Bit of a swing. For some, it's probably quite a miss. I'd say it's a bit of a miss for me as well. Some interesting ideas, even if they are quite undercooked. But yeah, if you did enjoy my take on this, consider dropping a like. Consider dropping some comments. Give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access or perhaps timer-based full length, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel. I am essentially about to reach the conclusion to my run on Doctor Who, for now at least. Because I'll be honest, at this point, there are no plans to continue beyond Series 10, beyond Capaldi's run. Perhaps down the line, I'll pick up on Series 11, Jodie's first season or first series. But at this moment, and listen, it could change. I don't know. Let's see. By the time I get to the end of Series 10, yeah, at this point, I'm not planning on going into Jodie's run immediately after this. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious, isn't it? But I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.